Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to my channel, I Hate Rock Music. And today I'm going to do a video on the band The Millennium. And a lot of people out there have heard the work of Kurt Boettcher, a legendary producer. And he did early association tunes like Cherish and Never My Love and did the orchestrations on those. And also worked with Tommy Roe. And over the years, he ended up working with the Association, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Tommy Roe, Elton John, Gene Clark, Emmett Rhodes, the Beach Boys, the Bards, Eternity's Children, and records like that. And so he's kind of a known quantity, even if you don't really know his name. But he was the mastermind behind this band called the Millennium, and very, very interesting character. And so Kurt Boettcher, and it's spelled Boettcher, so I may not be getting the pronunciation right. But he started out with a band called the Goldbriars that did mostly like folk standards and did two LPs on Epic Records with the Goldbriars back in 1964. And then he ended up in LA in 1967 and put together a group called the Ballroom that recorded an album in 1966 that was supposed to come out on Warner Brothers, but it never did. Fortunately, in the last 20 years, all the Ballroom sessions have been released, and pretty interesting stuff, a precursor to what he ended up doing with the Millennium. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten an appreciation for a lot of subgenres I didn't used to like as much. I wasn't a big fan of rural rock bands so much in the early 70s, and I wasn't definitely wasn't a fan of like sunshine pop or Baroque pop, what they call it. Usually has a lot of orchestrations to it and is very light and happy and has a lot of harmony vocals to it. Groups like the Association, the Mamas and Papas. But as the years have gone on, I've grown to have an appreciation for that kind of stuff as well. And the Millennium is definitely one of those bands, and is put out an album in 1968 called Begin that is truly a masterpiece, and I have no problem saying that. Whether you want to call it pop rock or Baroque pop or whatever you want to call it, it's just a gorgeous album and very forward thinking. And I'm not surprised it's very forward thinking. Basically, Kurt Boettcher was asked to put together a record for Columbia Records, working with Gary Usher, and he assembled a group of a bunch of people that he liked to create this group on record called the Millennium. And they ended up doing just a few live performances and had a lot of difficulty coming even close to reproducing this record, so they didn't really play live very much, and that's not surprising at all. It's definitely a very studio-oriented album. But it's really interesting because they started recording it in 1967 and put together one of the earliest 16-track recording systems. And at the time, by the time they finished with the record, it was one of the most expensive productions in Columbia Records history, and purportedly has over 100 layers of orchestrations and vocal parts, obviously mixed down to single tracks that would carry multiple recordings. But anyway, 16 track, and you can tell listening to it, it's got quite an expanse to it for records that came out in 1968. And being on Columbia, of course, was a big deal, and got bankrolled really well. But the band itself is Kurt Boettcher on vocals and guitar, Lee Mallory on vocals and guitar, who used to be in the Crying Shames, Sandy Salisbury on vocals and guitar, Joey Steck on vocals and guitar, Michael Finelli on vocals and guitar, Doug Rhodes on bass, harpsichord, and piano, and Ron Edgar on drums and percussion. And Kurt Boettcher, Lee Mallory, Sandy Salisbury, and Joey Steck all had solo LPs, so they're all kind of known quantities. So in some ways, this is kind of a super group. And Michael Finelli actually went on to play in the group Krabby Appleton that put out two albums on Elektra in the late 60s, early 70s, and they had a big hit with the song Go Back. Then Michael Finelli ended up doing a couple of solo albums as well that are definitely more hard rock oriented. But so anyway, a very large band, 7 people in the Millennium, and 5 of them are vocalist guitarists, and it really shows. There's just an amazing layers of vocal parts on these records, and the orchestrations are just gorgeous. And one of the things that really strikes me is a lot of it sounds pretty modern. There's a lot of restraint. The guitar parts are very tasteful. The drums are really excellent. There's a lot of interesting parts that are just very economical, a la the Beatles or something like that. And let's remember this is in a post Sergeant Pepper era, although there was lots of precursors to using orchestras in pop music and pop rock music. But this Millennium album, it truly is a masterpiece. I was stunned when I finally sat down and listened to the whole thing about 20 or 30 years ago. I used to see it in cutouts a lot for like 50 cents, and it just, when I looked at the back cover and saw that there was 7 people and they all looked like they were from the 60s, I figured it was probably something I wouldn't be interested in. But at the age I'm at now, and I listen to a record like this, I can totally appreciate it. And so, and also the connection to the Music Machine. I love the Music Machine early, middle 60s punk garage band, had a big hit with Talk Talk. And Doug Rhodes, the bass player of the Millennium, was also in Music Machine, as was Ron Edgar, the drummer in the Millennium. Both those guys were in the Music Machine, and then hooked up with this Millennium conglomerate. And it's supposedly Brian Wilson actually ended up hearing some of the work that Kurt Boettcher had been doing with the Ballroom and the Millennium, and somehow prodded him into moving away from surf music and getting into the stuff on Pet Sounds. And I can really see that, and it's no surprise that Kurt Boettcher ended up working with both the Beach Boys and the Byrds later on in their career. But I'm not going to go through this album track by track. There's quite a few numbers on it, and then it includes a final Millennium single that was never released, just about the same. And the flip side was Blight, and those are included on the CD bonus tracks now, so we get all that work. And Columbia gave him a pretty good push. The album was promoted pretty well. There's great ads for it out there. There's 2 singles with picture sleeves. I've only managed to get one of them so far, but I'm on the lookout for the other Millennium picture sleeve. Beautiful cover of the album too, so that really adds to it, as I've mentioned before. But just gorgeous work, really interesting instrumentation, a lot of sound effects, a lot of psychedelic effects, a lot of uh, uh, kind of sounds and noise and samples. There's an airplane taking off at one point, and so some of that kind of weirdness really adds to a record that's this straightforward with all this orchestration and all these beautiful, gorgeous vocals. And Kurt Boettcher himself has a beautiful high voice, and ends up doing a lot of falsetto as well. But the songs are all excellent, and it is just a gorgeous record. It truly is a masterpiece. If you don't own any other Sunshine Pop or Baroque Pop records, this would be the one to get, and it's definitely legendary now. And as I mentioned, it's great that not only has all the Millennium material been released, including alternate versions, demo versions, but all the Ballroom material's been released as well, instrumentals, demo versions, and the complete unreleased Warner Brothers album. Kind of sad too that Kurt Boettcher was involved in a lot of projects that never got released, um, solo albums that never got finished and released. He ended up doing a solo album in 1973 that's more of a country affair, but really extremely talented, great singer, great songwriter, great producer, and great orchestrator. And he ended up working a lot with Keith Olsen. Keith Olsen had a long career producing a lot of records you've heard before. And so between Keith Olsen and Kurt Boettcher, they just did a wonderful job on the production of this album. Everything is very clear with the 16 tracks as well. There's a lot of clarity, and the guitars really ring out nicely, and the drums sound great, and you can really hear the bass lines. So everything's very, very clear, and you can tell they're all accomplished musicians, but nothing really dramatic. So you're not going to hear a bunch of crazy rocking out or anything like that. But as I mentioned, you can tell they're really intelligent, accomplished musicians who do a lot with a lot of economy. So I highly recommend this record. It might not be for a lot of my regular watchers, but if you're like me and you like pretty much the whole expanse of like mid '60s to mid '70s rock, that would include a lot of these kind of sunshine pop bands, and you really can't get any better than the Millennium. So I'm really glad to have it in the collection. And Gary Usher and Kurt Bocher ended up working together again in a group called Sagittarius, also on Columbia Records. And I'll be doing a separate video on them, but that's another kind of sunshine pop record with a lot of interesting music, concrete, and interesting effects, and a lot of nice orchestrations and great vocal work on the Sagittarius records too. So anyway, the Millennium, uh, just a stunning masterpiece, and I hope that somebody out there hears it and really gets turned on to it because it's really wonderful. And like I say, just wonderful arrangements. Although the songs sometimes go by too fast, they're fairly short, but incredible orchestrations, just amazing vocal work, both as solo vocalists and harmony vocals, and then just a really great spread of interesting instrumentation, wide variety of instrumentation besides the guitar, bass, and drums, and the harpsichord and the piano. There's a lot of great all-around orchestration with strings and horns and the rest. They're used very organically, so you don't feel like you're getting overwhelmed by that stuff. It's very integrated into the music and just creates a whole new universe. But boy, sit down and listen to the whole thing end from end late at night, and it truly is a masterpiece. And unfortunately, we didn't get another record out of the Millennium, but this one is a stunner. So there you have it. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.